Joining us now is a very special guest, Mithali Raj, who's been the former skipper of the Indian women's cricket team, is with us. Many thanks for joining us here on Times Now, Mitali. Yesterday was truly a historic night for Indian cricket. Now, you came very close to lifting the cup both in 2005 and in 2017. And in fact, in 2017, you were so agonizingly close when you were captain. It's now finally happened. How special and emotional is it for you to see the next generation achieve what you and your team once set out to achieve and set the foundation for in many ways?
I think you rightly summed it up. It's historical. It was a historical night, very emotional for just not me, for many former cricketers who were there at the venue. A few of us were in the broadcasting room, whereas some of them in the stands. And to see India cross that line, we were pretty close twice, and then to see them get lucky and third time lucky, they say, and we got it through. I think the win last night clearly shifts the balance globally. For the longest time, people spoke about the dominance of the Australian side or England in the same breath. But now people are going to talk about India in the coming days, coming years, because the Indian team now looks solid in terms of the talent pool and the potential that we get to see with the players who are all who've come in the last year or so with the sort of resources and facilities available to them and the support system. Because if not for the support, I don't think you will be able to sort of spread your wings and fly for your dreams. So and a huge sort of huge contribution, or say huge support in that sense, has been from BCCI and even ICC for that matter, to make this World Cup, particularly this edition of the World Cup, so huge. Because Mr. Jaisha, who was a former secretary of BCCI, who was the one who actually got pay parity in terms of the equal match fees for the women cricketers,
Right.
he launched WPL, commercialized it, got the media rights, got the sponsors for WPL, and the same person now ICC chair. He increases the prize money of this event fourfolds just before the tournament, and it does has its impact, because when the highest order, like the head of the board, sees women's cricket on par with the men's cricket, the lens with which he's seen and trying to get everything sort of grow in women's cricket, everything transforms in around it. And we've seen that in the last 3 years for India, especially with the way the players believe in themselves. And that is clearly because of the experience and the exposure they've been given.
Right. Now, there are many who say that this is the 1983 moment for the women's team. Do you think it's a fair comparison to make?
Well, see, I mean, I don't think so, because that is like that team probably didn't even earn much. They didn't have that sort of facilities. But talking about this team, I mean, why should we actually have that comparison between the men's '83 World Cup and the women's 2025 World Cup? Why can't we see that in women's cricket, this has been the sort of a big moment, like, a change that was so required, because twice we were very close, and then we made sure that we crossed the line. And this has clearly changed, as I said, the balance on the global level. So far, Indian team, yes, we won series, we were close. So people know we were competitive. But on the big stage, big knockout games, we were not really at our best. And now with the franchise league, with the players coming in, and the players are not taking too much time because of the exposure that they're getting through the WPL, that players like Sri Charni or Kranti Gaud, who are just 6 months into international cricket, and you can already see the way the impactful performance. So yes, I would say it's not the right way to sort of compare with the 1983 World Cup and this one. This has its own value, and it is sort of an impetus for the coming years and the coming generation of cricketers.
I think it's only as a turning point that that comparison was being drawn, not to take away from the achievement of either the 1983 team or the current World Cup winning team. But I must ask you, at a time when you've been talking about pay parity, at a time when you're
Yeah.
talking about infrastructure and facilities and support for women's cricket perhaps being better than ever before,
Yeah.
take us through how you have started out in the game and how things were very different at that point of time. Because you have said in the past that when you played the World Cup in 2005, which happened when women's cricket was not officially under the BCCI, players just received about 1,000 rupees perhaps per game.
Yeah.
How much of this victory is also down to these changed times?
Well, I think, see, it's definitely the evolution of the sport. And we were, of course, under WCI. And then coming under BCCI clearly sort of changed a few things. It took a while even for BCCI to understand women's cricket. And the first time that we played a home World Cup was in 2013. And clearly, if I have to draw comparisons of that World Cup and to this World Cup, and when I spoke about giving credit to BCCI, is because when in 2013, when I was leading the team, we played all our games in Mumbai, and not Mumbai as a city itself didn't really wake up to the big event or the Women's Cricket World Cup when India was playing at CCI, and there was no trophy tour. The trophy was not taken to different cities, sort of advertising in a way that, World Cup is in India. It is in these venues. Back then, there was nothing of that sort. We were coming from an Asia Cup T20 format straight into a one-day World Cup. So the preparation, there was nothing about that. But yes, when we talk about this team, why the team has done well is credit, of course, goes to the girls, put up a lot of hard work and the support staff. But at the same time, the preparation, if we have to go talk about backwards, the last couple of years, we've seen this team play the best teams. Like we've had the bilateral series against Australia. The Indian team went to England and had a very successful tour. Then we had the Asia Cup. So they've been playing a lot of matches against quality opponents, and that is one way of having a very good preparation for this event, and then having specific skill camps where, like, for months the girls were able to train in these venues where they were playing more matches. Like, say, Vizag had 2 games of India, Mumbai had literally 4 games, so they were able to pick these venues and get training and have camps there, and then identifying the players from the WPL who can get into the Indian team and give them a specific role, the support staff management, the BCCI role. I think all of it has come together because it cannot be just one stakeholder and then you can see this result. It is everybody's inputs, everybody's hard work together, as we've seen the result that the girls were able to put in last night.
Right. And Mithali, did you ever get a chance to meet the team before the World Cup final? And can you share with us anything that you told them about the challenge that awaited them, perhaps your experience itself as far as the finals are concerned?
Well, I did meet them a couple of times, of course, at the unveiling of the trophy. And when I was asked, I told them, like, apart from all the preparation, because one day event, the World Cup is a little longer tournament, unlike the T20 World Cup. The One day World Cup takes about 3 to 4 weeks. So it's important how the team peaks, individual performances as well. There will always be a little bit of a dip. You might lose a couple of games, but you need to know to how to come back because you're still in the tournament. And precisely that happened. Like India lost 3 games in a row, but then the way they made a comeback against New Zealand and then went on to play that big semi-final and the final. So I feel that every game had a new player of the match, and that a reflection that now this team has a lot of match winners. Earlier in the past, there were just 2 or 3 match winners, and based on 2 or 3 players, you can't really win a big tournament. You probably might win a bilateral series, but to win a World Cup, you need 4 to 5 match winners, and we've got to see that brilliant individual performance in every game.
Right. And while you were doing commentary during the game last night, did you ever feel, I wish I was out there in the middle?
Oh, in fact, I should say that, I was a lot nervous. I don't know about the players because the last 2 wickets, when the girls, when there was a couple of boundaries hit, I like what the girls are doing. I finished my stint and then I couldn't really watch any more of it. I said, I took a break and I was just walking in the corridor. And when I heard the roar of the stadium, I realized, okay, we've finally crossed the line and we are actually the world champions.
Right. And also, there have been explosive performances. As you rightly said,
Yeah.
perhaps match winners in every game, but just the final match itself from Shefali Verma's explosive start, but that's Deepti Sharma's all-round brilliance. It's a complete team effort that we've seen through the tournament and,
Yeah.
of course, this match as well. But when India lost 3 games in a row during the league stage, did you ever feel that this team was perhaps coming under pressure, choking under pressure?
Well, I don't think they were choking. It's just that seizing those moments in a one day format is very important, which probably they were not able to sort of get the momentum back to them in these 3 games and allowed the momentum to go to the opponent. I'm sure with what little chat I had with the players after those games and just the other night, I got to know that, Amol, the coach, was a little hard on them after that, sort of probably you need a good talk at that point of time for the players to sort of, we still have a go at it if we are able to collect ourselves. And that's where I think the coach's role is also equally important, apart from the captain and the players, because he does a lot of work off the field, preparing the players so that the captain can lead the players onto the field. So yes, I mean, I'm sure they would have had that hard talk in the dressing room after those 3 losses. For them to come back like that and sort of win all those three, literal like the match against New Zealand was literal knockout for us.
Absolutely, because the reason I'm breaking up this entire issue of pressure is because when you talk about the semi-final against Australia, now there's an often accused, and it's not just the women's cricket team, but it's also the men's team that is perhaps fairly, perhaps unfairly, spoken about. But this is a part of the talk that somehow in India we don't handle pressure well. What do you make of some of those drop catches, for instance, when India's run chase was on by Australia, and how did we win the pressure clash in that game, in your view?
Well, see, getting into that semifinals, I think I'm sure the team would have had a talk, but for someone from outside, like I know for a fact that that Australian team knew that that one team which can beat them in a knockout is the Indian team, and they were playing them. So they had a lot to lose. India, of course, has really worked their way up into the tournament. It's just a matter of getting your best in the semi-final. So when you had the opponent already nervous, you sort of build on that energy, and that's what Indian team did. They didn't sort of fluster when in the run chase losing the openers. They took time. They wanted to take the match deep, and that sort of has been the template for many teams during the tournament because of a good surface. That you know that once you take the match deep, there's always a possibility of a change in the momentum in the last few overs, making it more sort of a thrilling encounter. It could be anybody's game, and that's what they did. And in doing so, Australia never realized that the match was slipping off their hands.
Right. Also, we've seen, I mean, we were talking about struggles earlier in the time that you were playing, but we've seen former women's cricket captain Shanta Rangaswamy, who talked about the early days of hardship that were faced by women's players. She said that they used to travel in unreserved train coaches, often slept in dormitory floors while touring matches. And now with the World Cup being won, what next for women's cricket? How should India retain this advantage? Do you believe that India can dominate the women's game like Australia has done for so many years?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I've spoken on numerous occasions in the last 2, 3 days that the coming years are going to be of India. India is going to dominate the global stage is because we now have, because of the franchise league, we're able to unearth a lot of potential and talented players, strengthening the bench strength, expanding the pool of players. And BCCI has definitely put in a lot more into having a shadow series like the India A series. India has already won 2 editions of the Under-19 World Cup. So you know that you have players coming from that age group as well in the coming years. They are getting a go in the WPL. We've seen Under-19 players being picked by franchise league. So when the players get picked for the Indian team, they don't take too much time. I mean, the fast forward of the players from the franchise league into the international series or international games don't really take much time as opposed to what it has been in the past for most of us in the absence of the franchise league. So I think fast forwarding helps in a big way because that's where a player is able to build on the self-belief, because these franchise leagues are very intense games. You see or super overs coming. So every time you're put into those experiences, time and again, the players find a way to sort of, get out of it. And that's what helps in high octane games like in the World Cups, especially in the knockouts. So seeing like Sri Charani or Kranti Gaud who are playing their first World Cup and they are just 5-6 months old into international career, and then not getting overawed or overwhelmed by the packed stadium and so much of attention to the team. They enjoyed being in the middle. I think that's a shift, that's a mindset shift, and it has come from the 3 years of WPL. And with just 5 teams, you're able to see the result. So just imagine if you're able to add more teams to it, more players from the domestic circuit will get picked, and the exposure, it sort of explodes women's cricket in India in the coming years. I can see a lot of players sort of aiming to get into franchise league, getting into the Indian team, and that actually sort of changes the landscape of women's cricket. It is growing, but it's sort of now the growth will sort of fast forward.
Interesting to hear that. Very positive to hear that indeed. But there is one challenge that I want to focus on. And my next question is on how social media, for instance, has been peddling misogyny and hate against women players. What, in your view, explains this mindset in the sense that when we talked about those 3 games that the team had lost, we saw this perhaps peak. There was a lot of needless chatter online. Would you like to tell us how all of this has impacted players on occasion?
I don't think it has, and it should not also impact them, because social media is a platform where you can't really take things too much, because I feel that, when you're preparing for such a big event, what I did, of course, was to sort of not get into social media. I would sort of log off it a month before the World Cups, and I'm sure the girls also would have done that, because you don't want to sort of uh, read or listen or see people sort of criticizing you for unwanted stuff. And it has its own pros and cons as well. I mean, as much as it amplifies your credentials, your profile, and the good stuff, that much it amplifies even the not so good as well. So
Right.
if you have the thick skin, you accept the good and the bad. Otherwise, don't get into it at all for that specific period of time, and choose to pick what works for you and what helps you and to keep your energy positive. And that's how I feel one should look at social media, because it's there. It does its job as well to enhance the sports profile and the player's profile, but it also has its downside.
Absolutely. And I'm asking you this because, we've seen someone like Jemima Rodriguez, who's been very forthcoming about dealing with anxiety. The willingness to speak about mental health is also something that we're seeing happen more often now in sports, perhaps. And once again, our players now in a much better space to deal with these matters than they were in the past. Earlier, perhaps it was only family and friends who were the support base. And now, of course, there are professionals who are hired to deal with these things.
Yes, the last time around, we did have a sports psychologist traveling with the team, and I'm sure the players probably would have that sort of a person with the team, or on an individual basis, they are able to still have that one-on-one talks, because it does help greatly to have a support mechanism. And one everybody should, because Jemima did speak about reaching out to her parents, the number of calls she did to her family members, her mother. So apart from the credit going to her, how she managed her emotional mindset, I think credit should also go to the parents, because it's a huge thing to see their daughter representing India, but also emotionally not at her best. And how do they sort of help her to be at her best if she gets an opportunity? And she did against New Zealand, after getting dropped in a game and then making a comeback with the 60 odd runs, and then getting to play at the same level, at the same spot in semi-final, going from 60 to 100, a match winning knock. So credit equally should go, or if not equal, more to her parents for actually keeping that girl in a very healthy mindset.
All right, Madhavdas, thank you so much for taking your time out and speaking to us here at Times Now.